here's going to be hopefully a really short video on just a little bit of extra output so that your future programs can kind of look nicer and you can figure out how to print things out in different ways. So here I've gotten the skeleton code up here, and I've created my main method. I've declared a variable. I named it x, and it's of type integer. I initialized that variable to be equal to the value of 5. So this first thing is saying, hey, let the user know the value of x in a nice way. So maybe what I want to do is just System.out.print ln. And if you want, maybe you consider that a nice enough way. You'll print out the value of x. But I'd say a nice way might be instead to say, all right, instead of just printing out out.println, instead of just printing out the value of x, maybe I want to tell the user what's going on. And I'll say the value of my variable x is, and I'll put a semicolon there. And here, all right, that's a bit of a nicer way to tell the user what the value of x is. Let's run and compile this code just to see if it works out. So I'm gonna copy it into my little online compiler, hit compile and execute, and it says, hey, the value of my variable x is 5. It printed out that exact quote, and then here it printed out, because I have no quotes, the value that x is holding, which is 5. Cool. All right, well, this next part of my skeleton code says, let the user know the value of x in a nicer way. So this is the first new thing I'm teaching you right now. A nicer way might be, instead of having it pop up on 2 lines, I want to have it all be on 1 line. So here's a nicer way of doing it. I will print out System.out. Instead of print ln, I'm just going to use System.out.print. And here I'll now type in the value of my variable x is, and then on the next line I'm going to do System.out.println, and here I'll just put the value of x. The difference between this over here, my second set that I'm saying is nicer, and this over here is just that on this first System.out.print statement, I didn't do print ln, which stands for print line. And let's see what happens if I compile that. So I hit Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and I'll do the same here, select all, and then paste, and let's try compiling and executing. All right, so here I printed out print ln, and it did it on 2 different lines. The value of my variable x is, and on the next line it said 5. Here, with just System.out.print, the ln actually is an extra thing. It's, System.out.print line is what that stands for, and it's telling the computer, once you're done printing this out, also hit enter and go to the next line. So if I have just System.out.print, it doesn't go to the next line, and instead it just prints it out. And that's exactly what happened here. It said the value of my variable x is, the value of my variable x is, and then because there's no ln, it's not telling it to hit enter, it then just prints out the next thing, is 5. The only issue with that is that there's no space between them, right? Like, is 5. So maybe I'll come back here, and after here I'll just put a little space, and now there's the value of my variable x is space, and then I'll compile it. That space is there, and 5. And so now I've got all this written down on just one nice little line. So that's kind of a nicer way of doing it, right? This is going to look nicer printing out to the user than having that whole thing be on 2 different lines. That looks kind of ugly. All right, final part that we're going to do. Let's come back to our program. I've got, here I'll add that little space over there, and I've got let the user know the value of x in a nicer way using only 1 line. Now some of you might be kind of, tricky or whatever. You're gonna say, oh, 1 line, well, Mr. Adler told me that I can do, white space doesn't matter. I'll just take this over here. As long as there's that semicolon, it's still gonna work, and now I've done it all in 1 line. While that's technically true, this is really ugly looking code. Now I've got 2 different commands on the same line. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to teach you how to concatenate, which concatenate means is to basically put two things together. So when you concatenate, you put two things together, and I've got the definition up here. It's to link two things together in a chain or series. So yeah, it's just to, oh, where's our thing? Concatenating is to put two things together. So here I'm going to do System.out.print. Maybe I'll do println. It doesn't really matter. And I'll say the value of my variable x is, and notice I'm putting that space over there. And here's how you concatenate. Inside that same System.out.print line statement, I will then put a plus sign, and then the next thing I want to smush together, the thing I want to put together with it. So here I'll just put the value of x. This right here is called concatenating. And that just means I'm taking these two parts, my quote that I want to say, and I'm putting it together using the plus that says, this plus says I'm going to take the thing over on the left and put it together with the thing over on the right. So I'm putting together this quote with the value of x over here, and hopefully, well, this is going to print out exactly what I say here. The plus sign says I'm going to smush these two things together, and the second thing I'm going to smush together with it is that value of x. So I'll copy it and paste it here. Now I've got my three different ways. I've got the println way, which you would have done before this video, the print way, that'll use two lines to put all of my information on one line, and here is the concatenation method, where I'm kind of taking the two things I'm printing out and putting it all into one statement. And let's compile and execute, see if it works out. And here, successfully compiled. And look, this first line is my variable, the value of my variable x is, that's right up here. 5, I'm just printing the value of x. The second one, it's actually two lines that are doing it, right? I've got System.out.print, no ln, the value of my variable x is space, and then I, on the next line, print out x, but because I didn't do println, it shows up all in one line. And then finally, kind of the nicest way of writing it, that does it all in one line, but then also when you're typing it out, it's less lines to type. You're going to concatenate and say System.out.println, and in this print statement, I'm going to print out this first quote, kind of like I had over here, and then I'll print out the value of my variable, kind of like I had over here, but I'm going to use this plus sign to tell the program, hey, do it all together, just all in one line, and it printed that out all in one line. All right, hopefully this will help you in the future with making, nicer outputs.